What the hell are you doing here? Get out of my house! Marcus Johnson's shout echoed through the night as he stood frozen, heart pounding, in his Atlanta home. The neon glow from his auto shop flickered outside, casting shadows over a trashed living room. Drawers yanked open, papers strewn like fallen leaves. He'd spotted a strange car parked nearby, then heard the faint click-clack from the back door. Rushing to his bedroom, Marcus found Lauren, his estranged white wife, kneeling by the bed, a suitcase of cash spilled open, her greedy eyes glinting. "Think you could hide this from me?" she taunted, laughing. "You're on camera," Marcus snapped, pointing to the blinking red light. Lauren's smug grin faltered, bills slipping from her hands. How did it come to this? A betrayal, a 15 mill's inheritance, and a fight for justice? Stay tuned to unravel the shocking truth. The neon sign of Johnson's auto buzzed faintly, its blue glow spilling across the cracked asphalt of West Atlanta, painting the night in restless flickers. Inside the modest home Marcus Johnson shared with his wife, the air was thick with the hum of an overworked fridge and the faint scent of motor oil clinging to his work clothes. Marcus, a 38-year-old black man with calloused hands and a steady gaze, pushed through the front door, his toolbox clanking against the frame. After a grueling day at his auto shop, he expected the usual. Lauren's soft humming, maybe a plate of leftovers warming on the counter. Instead, silence greeted him, sharp and unnatural, like the calm before a storm. Lauren sat at the dining table, her blonde hair pulled tight, her pale fingers scrolling through her phone. The light caught her diamond earrings, gifts from better days, and Marcus noticed the bank app open on her screen, a balance glaringly lower than it should be. "We need to talk," she said, her voice cold as the steel wrenches Marcus handled daily. She didn't look up, her eyes fixed on the phone, as if he were an afterthought. "Talk then," Marcus said, setting his toolbox down, the thud echoing in the quiet. His gut twisted. Something was off. Lauren stood, slinging her designer purse over her shoulder, her movements deliberate, practiced. "I'm done, Marcus," she said, finally meeting his eyes. "This life, this house, this grind, it's too small. I want more. Paris, penthouses, not this." She waved a hand at the faded couch, the chipped mugs on the counter, her lip curling in disdain. Marcus's jaw tightened, his hands still stained with grease. "You drained our accounts," he said, voice low, pointing at her phone. "Our savings, the shop's funds, gone." Lauren's lips curved into a smirk, unapologetic. "I deserve it," she snapped. 9 years stuck here, watching Tara live like a queen while I play housewife? Tara's right. I'm worth more than this." Her words stung, revealing a truth Marcus had ignored. Lauren's envy of her wealthy friend Tara, who flaunted yacht parties and designer bags, had festered, poisoning their marriage. He stepped closer, the floor creaking under his boots. "You forged my name on a second mortgage," he said, his voice steady but laced with fury. 30 grand in credit card debt, Lauren. You didn't just leave, you gutted us." Her smirk faltered for a split second, but she squared her shoulders. "Consider it my exit fee," she said, her heels clicking as she grabbed her keys. "Tara's waiting. Don't make this ugly." The door slammed behind her, the sound rattling the windows, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of her betrayal. He stood rooted, staring at the untouched dinner plates, the fridge's hum now a mocking drone. The neon glow from outside pulsed through the curtains, casting jagged shadows across the room. On the table, a stack of bills mocked him. Utilities, suppliers, a foreclosure notice for the shop. Lauren hadn't just walked out. She'd torched their life, leaving ashes for Marcus to sift through. His hands clenched, the grease under his nails a reminder of the honest work she dismissed. By morning, Marcus was on the phone with Aisha Brooks, his college friend turned lawyer, whose own divorce had taught her how to fight dirty. Her voice crackled through the line, sharp and resolute. "We'll bury her in paperwork, Marcus," Aisha said, her office's coffee and ink scent almost tangible through the call. "She's claiming you mismanaged the shop, wants alimony and half its value." Marcus laughed bitterly, sitting in his shop's office, surrounded by wrenches and oil cans. "Half of nothing is still nothing," he said, But Aisha's tone was steel. Get every receipt, every transaction. We're building a fortress. Marcus pulled out a battered notebook, a habit learned from DeAndre, his best friend since high school. Numbers don't lie, DeAndre used to say, his grin wide as they fixed cars late into the night, dreaming of something bigger. Marcus began logging every detail. Lauren's forged signatures, the drained accounts, the $30,000 debt. Each entry was a brick in the wall Aisha promised, his pen scratching with purpose. But as he worked, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm watching you. His stomach churned. Was it Lauren? Tara? He shook it off, chalking it up to paranoia. But the words lingered like a shadow. The shop's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Marcus sorted through years of records, the air thick with the tang of motor oil. He called his crew chief, Jamal, warning him of lean weeks ahead. We'll make it through, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the foreclosure notice burning a hole in his pocket. Jamal nodded, loyal but worried, his own family's bills looming. Marcus's hands moved methodically, filing papers, but his mind raced. Lauren's betrayal wasn't just personal. She targeted his livelihood, the shop he'd poured his soul into. As night fell, the neon sign outside flickered, its hum a faint echo of DeAndre's laughter during their late-night repair sessions. Marcus paused, a memory flashing. DeAndre tossing him a wrench, saying, "We'll own this city one day, man." That dream felt distant now, crushed under Lauren's heels. Another text buzzed, "You can't hide forever." Marcus's grip tightened on his pen, the words fueling a fire in his chest. He didn't know who was watching, Lauren, Tara, or someone else, but he'd be ready. Aisha's voice echoed in his mind as he locked the shop. Build the fortress. Marcus drove home, the Atlanta skyline a blur of lights against the dark. The house felt emptier now, the fridge's hum louder, the bills on the table a grim reminder of Lauren's sabotage. He sat at the dining table, notebook open, and wrote one more line. Lauren's transactions, traced to Tara. If Tara were pushing Lauren, Marcus would find out. The neon glow pulsed outside, a beacon in the night, urging him to fight. He wasn't just saving his shop, he was reclaiming his life. But those cryptic texts gnawed at him, whispering of a storm yet to come. The buzz of the neon sign outside Johnson's auto faded as Marcus Johnson locked the shop's heavy door, the clank of the bolt echoing in the still Atlanta night. His hands, still rough with grease, clutched the battered notebook where he'd begun cataloging Lauren's betrayal. Every forged signature, every drained account, every dollar of the $30,000 debt she'd left behind. The weight of her departure pressed against his chest, not just as a loss, but as a wound, raw and deliberate. Lauren's smirk, her cold dismissal. Tara says I deserve more, cut deeper than the foreclosure notice tucked in his pocket. Yet beneath the pain, a fire smoldered in Marcus, fueled by the cryptic text from an unknown number. I'm watching you. It wasn't just paranoia, it was a challenge, and Marcus wasn't one to back down. Inside the shop's office, the air was thick with the familiar tang of motor oil and metal, a sanctuary where Marcus could think. He sank into the creaky chair, the fluorescent lights casting stark shadows across his face, etching lines of exhaustion and resolve. His fingers flipped open the notebook, DeAndre's words ringing in his mind. Numbers don't lie, man. DeAndre, his best friend since high school, had taught him to track every bolt, every receipt, a discipline that now felt like a lifeline. Marcus's pen scratched furiously, logging Lauren's transactions, credit card charges for designer bags, transfers to an account he didn't recognize, one tied to Tara, her wealthy friend who'd fanned Lauren's envy into a blaze. Each entry was a stab at reclaiming control, a way to stitch the gaping hole she'd torn in his life. His phone buzzed again, the screen glowing with another text. You can't hide forever. Marcus's heart thudded, his pulse a drumbeat against his temples. He stared at the words, the letters blurring as anger and fear collided. Was it Lauren taunting him? Tara pulling strings? Or someone else, sniffing around the edges of his crumbling world? He slammed the phone down, the clatter sharp against the desk. No, he wouldn't let this rattle him. Lauren had taken everything, his savings, his stability, but she wouldn't take his fight. He grabbed a stack of bank statements, his hands trembling not with weakness but with purpose, and began cross-referencing her withdrawals. The numbers told a story: lavish dinners, luxury spa visits, payments to Tara's boutique account. Lauren hadn't just left. She lived a double life, funded by his sweat. The shop's walls, lined with tools and faded photos of Marcus and DeAndre grinning beside a rebuilt Chevy, seemed to close in, their familiarity both comfort and ache. Marcus paused, his gaze lingering on a photo from 10 years back. Him and DeAndre, grease-streaked and laughing, dreaming of owning the city. DeAndre's absence was a quiet pain, a void Lauren's betrayal had widened. Marcus's throat tightened, but he swallowed it down, channeling the hurt into his work. He scribbled another note. Trace Tara's account. Possible collusion. If Tara was egging Lauren on, he'd expose her too. His pen moved like a weapon, each stroke a defiance of the chaos threatening to swallow him. Aisha Brooks' voice broke through his thoughts, her call coming as the shop's clock ticked past midnight. Marcus, I've seen her filings, she said, her tone sharp with the edge of someone who'd fought her own battles. Aisha, a college friend who'd clawed her way through a divorce from a cheating husband, knew the sting of betrayal. Lauren's claiming you mismanaged the shop, wants half its value and alimony. She's saying you hid assets. Marcus's laugh was bitter, echoing in the empty office. Half of nothing, Aisha. She took it all. Aisha's voice softened, but her resolve was iron. We'll bury her in paperwork. Get me every receipt, every bank statement. She forged your name. She's not walking away clean. Marcus leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. Aisha's words were a lifeline, pulling him from the quicksand of despair. He could still feel Lauren's smirk, her heels clicking out of his life. But Aisha's fire matched his own. She'd won her own divorce by being meticulous, turning her ex's lies into dust. Now she was his shield, her voice a reminder that he wasn't alone. Marcus's eyes burned, not from tears but from the long hours, the weight of keeping his shop alive. He called Jamal, his crew chief, the line crackling with urgency. We're in a tight spot, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the foreclosure notice looming like a guillotine. But we'll pull through. Jamal's silence carried the weight of his own family's bills. But he muttered, I trust you, boss. Marcus hung up, the trust a heavy mantle on his shoulders. The shop's fluorescent lights flickered, casting jagged shadows across the desk. Marcus's fingers traced the notebook's pages, each entry a brick in the fortress Isha promised. But that text, you can't hide forever, gnawed at him, a splinter in his resolve. He stood, pacing the office, the hum of the neon sign outside a faint pulse in the dark. He remembered Lauren's last words. Tara's waiting. Tara, with her Instagram-perfect life, had fueled Lauren's greed, her stories of yacht parties and private jets a siren song. Marcus's fists clenched, the grease under his nails a badge of his labor, his pride. Lauren had mocked it, but he'd make her regret it. His phone buzzed again, another unknown number. I see you. Marcus's breath caught, his eyes darting to the shop's windows, half expecting to see that strange car from the night before. The Atlanta skyline glittered beyond, indifferent to his turmoil. He forced himself to sit, to focus, but his heart raced. Someone was watching, Lauren, Tara, or a shadow he couldn't yet name. He grabbed a pen, writing one last note. Check security footage, shop and home. If they were coming for him, he'd be ready. The tools on the wall gleamed, silent allies in his fight. Lauren had taken his money, his trust, but she wouldn't take his future. Not without a war. The hum of Johnson's Auto's neon sign lingered in Marcus Johnson's ears as he drove away from the shop, the Atlanta skyline a blur of lights against the inky night. His hands gripped the steering wheel, still gritty with grease, the cryptic text, I'm watching you. You can't hide forever, burning in his mind like a warning shot. Lauren's betrayal had left his life in tatters, the $30,000 debt and foreclosure notice a noose around his neck. Yet beneath the weight of her sabotage, Marcus felt a flicker of defiance, a spark kindled by the memory of DeAndre, his best friend, whose voice echoed in his battered notebook. Numbers don't lie, man. That spark kept him moving, kept him fighting, even as the strange car and those texts haunted his thoughts. In the quiet of his home, the fridge's drone was a mocking reminder of Lauren's absence, her smirk and clicking heels still raw in his memory. Marcus sat at the dining table, the stack of bills a grim monument to her greed, fueled by Tara's tales of yachts and penthouses. His fingers traced the notebook's pages, each entry a weapon against her lies. Forged loans, siphoned accounts, transfers to Tara's boutique. His chest tightened, not just from anger, but from the ache of 9 years reduced to ashes. He'd built this life for them, for her, and she'd torched it without a backward glance. But Marcus wasn't done. Aisha's promise, "We'll bury her in paperwork," was a lifeline, and he clung to it, his pen scratching with purpose. The phone rang, shattering the silence, the screen flashing an unknown number. Marcus's pulse quickened, expecting another taunt, but a woman's voice came through, calm and professional. "Marcus, this is Evelyn Reed, DeAndre's estate attorney. Can you meet me tomorrow?" His breath caught, the name DeAndre a jolt to his heart. DeAndre, gone too soon in a car crash, had been his brother in all but blood, their nights spent wrenching cars and dreaming big in a dusty garage. "It's important," Evelyn added, her tone gentle but firm. Marcus nodded, though she couldn't see, his voice rough. "I'll be there." He hung up, a memory flashing. DeAndre tossing him a cold beer, grinning wide. "One day, man, we'll own this city." The memory stung, a bitter-sweet ache that made his eyes burn. Morning found Marcus in Evelyn's office, a sleek space of glass and steel that felt worlds away from his grease-stained reality. The Atlanta sun streamed through tall windows, glinting off her desk as she slid a thick folder toward him. "DeAndre left you everything," she said, her voice steady but kind. $15 million, his tech startup shares, a warehouse, and liquid assets, all in a trust. Marcus's hands froze on the folder, his heart pounding like a hammer on an anvil. 15 million. The number was a thunderclap, shaking the foundation of his crumbling world. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, the weight of DeAndre's absence pressing hard. Evelyn's eyes softened. "He called you family, Marcus. Said you were the only one he trusted." Marcus leaned back, the leather chair creaking under him, his mind reeling. He saw DeAndre's face, that wide grin as they rebuilt a Chevy's engine, the way he'd slap Marcus's shoulder and say, "We're unstoppable, man." The memory was a knife, cutting through the fog of Lauren's betrayal. $15 million wasn't just money. It was DeAndre's faith in him, a legacy Marcus hadn't earned but would honor. His throat tightened, a lump forming as he thought of those nights in the garage, the smell of oil and the clink of tools. DeAndre's laughter filling the air. "What do I need to do?" he asked, his voice steadying, resolve hardening like steel. Evelyn's pen tapped the folder, her gaze sharp. "Keep it separate. No mixing with personal accounts, no slip-ups. People get greedy when millions are involved." Marcus nodded, his mind flashing to Lauren's smirk, Tara's influence lurking behind it. He could almost hear her voice dripping with false sweetness. "That's ours, Marcus." His fists clenched, the grease under his nails a badge of his labor, his pride. "I'll keep it clean," he said, his eyes meeting Evelyn's. She slid him a business card for a trust accountant, David Lang. "Call him today, set up the accounts. And Marcus," she added, her voice lowering, "watch your back." The warning landed like a punch, stirring the unease from those cryptic texts. Marcus left the office, the folder heavy under his arm, the Atlanta skyline looming through the glass. His heart was a storm of emotions. Grief for DeAndre, shock at the windfall, and a growing dread that Lauren would come for it. He drove to First Atlanta Bank, the folder's weight a reminder of DeAndre's trust. The bank's cool air and polished counters felt foreign, but the manager, Ms. Carter, moved with efficiency, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Separate trust account, no ties to personal holdings," she confirmed, her glasses catching the light. Marcus handed over the documents, his hands steady but his mind racing. "Every detail," he said, echoing DeAndre's mantra. "Track everything." As Miss Carter processed the forms, Marcus's thoughts drifted to Lauren, to Tara's whispers of wealth that had poisoned her. He saw them laughing at some rooftop bar, Tara's diamond bracelets glinting, Lauren's eyes hungry for a life he couldn't give. The betrayal burned, but DeAndre's gift was a lifeline, a chance to rebuild. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. Another unknown number. Big money, big problems. His stomach twisted, the words a needle in his resolve. He glanced out the bank's window, half expecting that strange car, its headlights stalking him in the dark. Was it Lauren, Tara, or someone else, drawn by the scent of millions? Back at the shop, Marcus sat under the fluorescent lights, the folder open before him. He withdrew $50,000 in cash for shop upgrades, planning to store it in a locked suitcase at home. His hands trembled, not from fear but from the weight of DeAndre's faith, a legacy he'd protect at all costs. The neon sign outside buzzed, a faint echo of DeAndre's laughter. Marcus closed the notebook, his pen still, but his heart roared with purpose. Lauren had taken his past, but this money was his future. He'd fight for it, no matter who was watching. The faint buzz of Johnson's Auto's neon sign faded as Marcus Johnson drove home. The Atlanta skyline a jagged silhouette against the night. The weight of DeAndre's $15 million inheritance pressed against his chest, not as a gift but as a beacon for trouble. The folder from Evelyn Reed, heavy with trust documents, lay on the passenger seat, a tangible piece of his best friend's faith in him. Yet the cryptic text, big money, big problems, gnawed at Marcus's resolve, each word a splinter in his mind. Lauren's betrayal had already gutted him, leaving $30,000 in debt in a shop teetering on foreclosure. Now, with this windfall, he felt her shadow and Tara's looming closer, their greed a storm brewing on the horizon. Inside his home, the fridge's hum was a mocking echo of Lauren's absence. Her smirk and clicking heels still burned into his memory. Marcus sat at the dining table, the trust documents spread before him, their crisp edges a contrast to the chaos she'd left behind. His hands, still rough with grease, trembled as he opened a locked suitcase, sliding $50,000 in cash inside for shop upgrades. He'd meant to change the house locks after Lauren left, but the crush of debt and late nights at the shop had stolen his focus, a mistake that now felt like a crack in his armor. His heart thudded, the memory of that strange car parked near his street flaring in his mind. Was it Lauren, Tara, or someone else drawn by the scent of millions? Marcus's phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with another unknown number. Money won't save you. His breath caught, anger and fear tangling in his chest. He slammed the phone down, the clatter sharp against the table's silence. Lauren's voice echoed in his head, her last call dripping with false sweetness. That's ours, Marcus. Tara heard about DeAndre's money. Tara, her wealthy friend who'd fueled Lauren's envy with tales of yachts and penthouses, was no bystander. She was a spark to Lauren's fire. Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes burning with the sting of 9 years reduced to ashes. Lauren hadn't just wanted out, she'd wanted to bury him, and Tara was her cheerleader. He stood pacing the living room, the floor creaking under his boots. The neon glow from the shop seeped through the curtains, casting jagged shadows that danced like specters. Marcus's mind flashed to DeAndre, to their nights in the old garage, the clink of wrenches and DeAndre's grin. We're unstoppable, man. That trust, that brotherhood was what Lauren and Tara were trying to steal. His fists clenched, the grease under his nails a badge of his labor, his pride. He wouldn't let them touch DeAndre's legacy. He grabbed the notebook, scribbling a new entry. Trace Tara's role. Possible accomplice. Each stroke of the pen was a vow, a defiance of the shadows creeping closer. The next morning, Marcus met Aisha Brooks in her office, the air thick with the scent of coffee and fresh ink. Aisha, her eyes sharp from her own battles with a cheating ex, spread Lauren's legal filings across her desk. She's claiming the inheritance is marital property, Aisha said, her voice steady but laced with disgust. Says your friendship with DeAndre was built during the marriage, so she's entitled to half. Marcus's laugh was bitter, his hands gripping the chair's arms. She took everything, savings, shop funds, my name on forged loans. Now she wants DeAndre's money? Aisha's gaze met his, her own scars fueling her fire. She's desperate, Marcus. Tara's pushing her, whispering about big payouts. But we've got her number. Aisha's words were a lifeline, pulling Marcus from the quicksand of dread. He handed her the trust documents, each page a testament to DeAndre's faith, meticulously kept separate from his personal accounts. Not a dime's mixed, he said, his voice steady but heavy with the ache of loss. Aisha nodded, her pen tapping the desk, a rhythm that echoed Marcus's resolve. Good, she said. We'll bury her in evidence. But those texts, money won't save you. They worry me. Keep logging everything. Marcus's stomach twisted, the memory of the strange car flashing in his mind. He nodded, his heart a drumbeat of determination and unease. Back at the shop, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows across the oil-stained floor. Marcus sat at his desk, the trust folder open, DeAndre's words ringing in his ears. Protect what's yours, man. He could almost feel DeAndre's hand on his shoulder, that wide grin urging him to fight. His throat tightened, a lump forming as he thought of their dreams. Owning the city, building something lasting. Lauren and Tara saw that dream as a prize to steal, but Marcus saw it as a promise to keep. He wrote another note. Check home security, possible breach. The texts, the car, they weren't coincidences. Someone was watching, and he'd be damned if he let them catch him off guard. His phone buzzed again, another unknown number. You're not safe. Marcus's pulse roared, his hands trembling, not with fear, but with fury. He stood, the chair scraping against the floor, and checked the shop's security footage on his laptop. Nothing yet, but the grainy feed showed a car lingering near the lot the night before, its headlights dim but unmistakable. His mind raced. Lauren, Tara, or someone they'd hired. He called Aisha, his voice low. I'm getting more texts. And that car, it's back. Aisha's tone was sharp. Send me screenshots. We'll trace the number. Lauren's playing dirty, and Tara's in deep. Marcus hung up, his heart pounding like a piston. The shop's tools gleamed on the walls, silent allies in his fight. He remembered Lauren's last words. Tara has friends in high places. Tare, with her diamond bracelets and Instagram-perfect life, had turned Lauren's envy into a weapon. But Marcus wasn't the naive husband anymore. He was a man with DeAndre's legacy, with Aisha's fire, and with a notebook full of truth. He locked the suitcase of cash, his hands steady now, and drove home, the neon signs hum fading behind him. The Atlanta night closed in, but Marcus's resolve burned brighter. Lauren and Tara could scheme all they wanted. He'd be ready for the storm. The Atlanta night pressed against Marcus Johnson's home, its silence broken only by the faint hum of the fridge, a mocking echo of the life Lauren had shattered. The $15 million inheritance from DeAndre, locked in a trust and a suitcase of cash, was a lifeline Marcus clung to. But the cryptic text, "You're not safe," and the strange car lurking near his street kept his nerves taut as a wire. Lauren's betrayal had carved a wound deep in his chest, her greed fueled by Tara's whispers of wealth and power. Yet Marcus's resolve burned hotter, stoked by Aisha's promise to bury Lauren in evidence, and DeAndre's memory urging him to protect what was his. Tonight, that resolve would be tested. Marcus pulled into his driveway, the neon glow of Johnson's auto fading in the distance. His heart thudded, a primal rhythm, as he spotted that strange car again. Its headlights dim but unmistakable, parked just beyond the street lamp's reach. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel, the grease under his nails a gritty reminder of his fight. Was it Lauren, Tara, or someone they'd roped into their scheme? He killed the engine, the silence deafening, and stepped out, his boots crunching on the gravel. A faint lock cash from the back door sliced through the night, like a key scraping in a lock. His pulse roared, fear and fury colliding as he pushed open the front door. The living room was chaos. Drawers yanked open, papers strewn like fallen leaves, a cheap alarm system dangling with its wires cut. Marcus's breath caught, his eyes darting to the shadows, every creak of the floorboards amplifying his dread. Lauren. It had to be her. He'd forgotten to change the locks, a mistake born of endless nights battling debt and foreclosure. His hands clenched, the memory of her smirk. Tara says I deserve more, fueling a fire in his gut. He moved toward the bedroom, his steps silent but urgent, the air thick with the scent of his own fear and determination. The bedroom door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling from within, glinting off the open suitcase on the floor. Marcus froze, his heart a hammer against his ribs. Lauren knelt beside his bed, her blonde hair catching the lamplight, her pale hands clutching stacks of dollar bills from the $50,000 he'd set aside for the shop. Her eyes, wide with greed, sparkled like a predator's, and a laugh, sharp, triumphant, burst from her lips. "Think you could hide this from me and Tara?" she taunted, waving a bundle of cash, her voice dripping with the confidence Tara's wealth had instilled. "This is mine, Marcus. You owe me for those years in this dump." Marcus's blood boiled, his hands trembling not with fear, but with a rage he'd buried since her betrayal. "What the hell are you doing here?" he shouted, his voice thundering through the room. "Get out of my house!" Lauren's laugh faltered, her eyes flicking up to meet his, but her smirk held, fueled by Tara's promises of victory. "You can't stop me," she sneered, stuffing bills into her purse. "Tara's friends will make sure I get what's mine." Marcus stepped forward, his shadow looming over her, and pointed to the ceiling. "You're on camera, Lauren." The red light of the hidden security camera blinked above, a silent witness. Lauren's face drained of color, the bills slipping from her hands, scattering across the floor like confetti. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking, her eyes darting to the camera, then back to Marcus. "You're lying!" she shouted, scrambling to her feet, her purse tumbling, spilling lipsticks and keys. "You owe me, Marcus! Tara said—" Her words choked off, panic replacing her bravado. Marcus's heart pounded, a mix of triumph and disgust surging through him. He'd caught her, red-handed, just as Aisha had predicted. "You're done," he said, his voice low, steady, a blade cutting through her desperation. Lauren lunged for the suitcase, her hands shaking as she tried to grab more cash. "Tara said we'd win," she cried, her voice shrill, betraying the cracks in her confidence. Marcus grabbed her wrist, not hard but firm, his grip a silent vow to protect DeAndre's legacy. "You broke into my home," he said, his eyes burning into hers. "You stole, you lied, and now you're caught." Lauren yanked free, stumbling back, her breath ragged. "You'll regret this," she hissed, but her eyes were wild, like a trapped animal's. She bolted for the door, leaving the suitcase open, bills fluttering in her wake. Marcus stood frozen, his chest heaving, the room's silence roaring in his ears. The suitcase lay open, a symbol of DeAndre's trust, now tainted by Lauren's greed. His heart ached, not for her, but for the life they'd once shared. Dinners at this table, her laughter before Tara's influence poisoned it. He sank onto the bed, the lamplight casting shadows across his face, etching lines of exhaustion and resolve. DeAndre's voice echoed in his mind. "Protect what's yours, man." Marcus's throat tightened, a lump forming as he thought of their nights in the garage, the clink of tools, DeAndre's grin. He'd failed to protect his marriage, but he wouldn't fail DeAndre. He grabbed his phone, dialing Aisha, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. "She broke in," he said, the words heavy. "Caught her on camera, stealing from the suitcase." Aisha's voice crackled through, sharp with the fire of her own past victories. "Send me the footage, Marcus. She's done." He pulled up the security app, the grainy video showing Lauren's frantic grab for cash, her smug laugh turning to panic. His fingers trembled, not from fear but from the weight of this moment, a turning point. Lauren had crossed a line, and Marcus, with Aisha's help, would make her pay. The neon glow from the shop seeped through the window, a faint pulse in the dark. Marcus closed the suitcase, its lock clicking shut, a sound of finality. His heart still raced, but it wasn't fear now. It was purpose. Lauren and Tara thought they could take DeAndre's legacy, but Marcus was ready. The camera's red light blinked, a silent ally, and he whispered to himself, "Got you." The Atlanta night closed in, but Marcus's resolve burned brighter. a fire no one could extinguish. The echo of Lauren's frantic footsteps had faded, but Marcus Johnson's heart still pounded, the red light of the bedroom camera blinking like a heartbeat in the quiet Atlanta night. The open suitcase of cash, now locked tight, stood as a testament to DeAndre's trust and Lauren's greed. Her taunting laugh, "Think you could hide this from me and Tara?" still ringing in his ears. The $15 million inheritance, a lifeline from his lost friend, felt both a gift and a burden, its weight amplified by the cryptic texts and that strange car haunting his street. Marcus's chest burned with a mix of triumph and rage. Lauren's betrayal now etched in the security footage Aisha would wield like a blade. He wasn't just fighting for money, he was fighting for DeAndre's legacy, for his own survival, and for the man he'd become. In the dim glow of his living room, the fridge's hum is a faint drone. Marcus sat at the dining table, the security app open on his phone. The grainy footage replayed Lauren's desperate grab for the cash, her smug grin crumbling into panic as he'd pointed out the camera. His hands trembled, not from fear but from the raw satisfaction of catching her red-handed. Yet beneath that victory, a deeper ache pulsed. 9 years of shared laughter, quiet dinners and promises, all torched by Lauren's envy, fanned by Tara's glittering world of wealth. Marcus's throat tightened, his eyes burning as he remembered DeAndre's voice in their old garage. "We're unstoppable, man." He wouldn't let Lauren steal that dream. Aisha Brooks's call came before dawn, her voice crackling with the fire of someone who'd fought her own betrayals. "I've got the footage," she said, the clink of coffee mugs audible in her office's background. "Lauren's done, Marcus. This is theft, plain and simple." Marcus leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight, his heart a storm of relief and resolve. "She mentioned Tara," he said, his voice low, rough with exhaustion. "Said Tara's got friends in high places." Aisha's laugh was sharp, edged with her own scars from a cheating ex. "Tara's no match for evidence. We'll bury them both in court." The morning found Marcus in Aisha's office, the air thick with the scent of fresh ink and determination. Papers spread across her desk, bank statements, forged loan documents, and now the damning video of Lauren's break-in. Aisha's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, met his. "She's filed a motion," she said, tapping a folder. "Claims the inheritance is marital property because you and DeAndre were tight during the marriage. She's leaning hard on Tara's connections." Marcus's jaw clenched, the memory of Lauren's greedy eyes flashing in his mind. "She stole 30 grand, forged my name, and now she wants DeAndre's money?" His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the chair, knuckles whitening with suppressed fury. Aisha leaned forward, her own pain fueling her fire. "I've been here, Marcus," she said softly. "My ex tried to take everything. My business, my pride. We won because I was meticulous. You will too." Her words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of Marcus's heart. He saw Lauren's smirk, Tara's shadow behind it, and felt a surge of defiance. "What's next?" he asked, his eyes meeting hers, a silent vow to fight. Aisha slid him a list. "We prep for mediation. Every transaction, every text, every frame of that video. Lauren's digging her own grave." The mediation room was a sterile box, its long wooden table gleaming under fluorescent lights, the air heavy with the scent of stale coffee. Marcus sat across from Lauren, her blonde hair pulled tight, her blue eyes cold but flickering with unease. Tara wasn't there, but her presence loomed in Lauren's words, her voice sharp as she leaned forward. 9 years, Marcus," she said, her hands twisting a new diamond bracelet, no doubt a gift from Tara's world. "I gave you my best, stuck in that dump of a house. Tara says I deserve half that money." Marcus's heart thudded, a mix of disgust and pity. He saw her now, not just greedy, but desperate, molded by Tara's promises of a life she'd never touch. "You stole everything," Marcus said, his voice low, cutting through the room's tension. "Forged my name, drained the shop, and broke into my house. You don't deserve a dime." Lauren's eyes narrowed, but her fingers trembled, betraying the cracks in her bravado. "Tara's friends will make sure I win," she snapped, her voice rising. "They know people, judges, lawyers." Aisha, sitting beside Marcus, didn't flinch. She slid the security footage across the table, the still image of Lauren clutching cash frozen on her laptop. "This is theft," Aisha said, her voice calm but lethal. "And we've got the bank records to prove your forgeries." Lauren's face paled, her bracelet glinting as her hands shook. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor, her eyes darting to the door as if Tara might appear to save her. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, her voice cracking, the confidence Tara had fed her crumbling. Marcus met her gaze, his heart a storm of anger and resolve. "You made yours first," he said, his words steady, a blade forged in DeAndre's memory. Lauren grabbed her purse, the contents rattling, and stormed out, the door slamming behind her, a sound that echoed like a gunshot. Marcus sat still, his chest heaving, the room's silence pressing against him. Aisha touched his arm, her eyes warm with shared victory. "She's unraveling," she said, her voice soft but firm. Marcus nodded, his throat tight, the weight of DeAndre's trust anchoring him. He saw Lauren's desperate eyes, the shadow of Tara's influence, and felt a pang, not for her, but for the man he'd been, the one who'd believed in her. His hands unclenched, the grease under his nails a reminder of his strength. The shop's neon sign flashed in his mind, a beacon in the dark. Lauren and Tara could scheme, but Marcus was ready, his heart steeled for the fight ahead. The slam of Lauren's exit still echoed in Marcus Johnson's ears as he sat in the mediation room, the sterile air thick with the scent of stale coffee and tension. The security footage of her break-in, frozen on Aisha's laptop, was a blade held to Lauren's greed, her desperate grab for the suitcase of cash, part of DeAndre's $15 million legacy, now a damning testament to her betrayal. Marcus's heart pounded, a mix of triumph and raw ache. The memory of Lauren's taunt, "Think you could hide this from me and Tara?" clashing with DeAndre's voice in his mind. "Protect what's yours, man." The cryptic text and that strange car lurking near his Atlanta home fueled his unease. But the fire in his chest burned hotter, stoked by Aisha's promise to bury Lauren in evidence. This wasn't just about money. It was about honoring DeAndre, reclaiming his life, and proving Lauren's betrayal would not break him. The courthouse loomed the next morning, its marble halls cold and unyielding, the Atlanta sun slicing through tall windows to cast long shadows across the polished floor. Marcus sat beside Aisha, his hands gripping the bench, the grease under his nails a silent badge of his labor. His heart was a storm, anger at Lauren's theft, grief for DeAndre's absence, and a steely resolve to protect the legacy his friend had entrusted him. Lauren sat across the room, her blonde hair pulled tight, her blue eyes darting nervously, no longer glinting with the greed Tara had fanned. Tara herself sat in the back, her diamond bracelets catching the light, her presence a quiet pressure on Lauren's crumbling facade. Marcus's jaw clenched, the memory of Lauren's panicked shout, "You owe me, Marcus!" stirring a mix of disgust and pity. Judge Hamilton entered, her robes swishing like a warning, her gaze sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. The courtroom's silence was heavy, broken only by the rustle of papers and the creak of wooden benches. Aisha rose, her burgundy suit crisp, her voice steady but laced with the fire of her own past victories over a cheating ex. "Your Honor," she began, sliding a folder forward, "we have clear evidence of theft and fraud by Ms. Lauren. She forged Mr. Johnson's signature on loans, drained their joint accounts, and broke into his home to steal $50,000 in cash." She clicked her laptop, the projector flashing the security footage. Lauren's greedy hands clutching bills, her laugh turning to panic as Marcus pointed out the camera. Marcus's heart thudded, his eyes fixed on the screen, reliving the moment he'd caught her. The footage was a knife, cutting through Lauren's lies, but it also carved into him, a reminder of the life they'd shared. Quiet dinners, her laughter before Tara's influence poisoned it. His throat tightened, a lump forming as he thought of DeAndre, his grin in their old garage saying, "We're unstoppable." That trust was why Marcus sat here, fighting, his hands steady despite the ache in his chest. Lauren's face paled as the video played, her fingers twisting her bracelet, her eyes flicking to Tara, who looked away, her own confidence wavering. Aisha's voice cut through the room, relentless. Ms. Lauren claims the $15 million inheritance is marital property, citing Mr. Johnson's friendship with the deceased during their marriage. But the trust is separate, untouchable, and her actions, forgery, theft, disqualify any claim. She laid out bank records, the forged mortgage, and the video's metadata, each document a brick in the fortress she'd promised. Marcus's heart swelled with gratitude, Aisha's fire mirroring his own. She wasn't just his lawyer, she was a warrior who'd walked his path, her own scars driving her to fight for him. Lauren's attorney, a wiry man with a nervous tic, stammered through a weak defense, citing her emotional investment in the marriage. Marcus's laugh was silent, bitter, his eyes burning as he remembered her smirk, her heels clicking out of his life. Judge Hamilton's gaze was granite, her pen tapping the bench. "The law is clear," she said, her voice a gavel in itself. "Inherited assets, absent commingling, remain separate. The evidence of theft and fraud is undeniable." She fixed Lauren with a stern look. "The motion is denied. Ms. Lauren is ordered to pay $30,000 in restitution for stolen funds and is sanctioned for her actions. This matter is referred for criminal review." The gavel cracked, a sound like thunder, and Marcus exhaled, his chest loosening for the first time in weeks. Lauren's face crumpled, her hands shaking, her eyes darting to Tara, who slipped out the back, her bracelets no longer glinting. Marcus's heart ached, not for Lauren, but for the man he'd been, the one who'd believed in her. He saw her desperation now, molded by Tara's promises of wealth, and felt a pang of pity. But only a pang. She'd chosen this path, and he'd chosen to fight. Outside in the marble hallway, Lauren cornered him, her nails digging into his arm. "Tara said we'd win," she hissed, her voice breaking, tears smudging her mascara. "She promised her friends would fix this." Marcus pulled free, his eyes cold but steady. "You trusted the wrong person," he said, his voice low, cutting. "You burned us down, Lauren. Live with it." Her sob echoed as he walked away, Aisha at his side, her hand light on his shoulder. "You did it," she said, her voice warm with pride. Marcus nodded, his throat tight, DeAndre's grin flashing in his mind. He'd protected the legacy, but the victory felt heavy, laced with the grief of what was lost. The Atlanta sun glared outside, the skyline indifferent to his triumph. Marcus's hands unclenched, the grease under his nails a reminder of his strength. He saw Lauren's silhouette in the distance, alone, Tara's absence a final betrayal. His heart was a storm, relief, grief, and a quiet fire that refused to fade. He'd won this battle, but the cryptic text, Tara's shadow, lingered like a storm cloud. DeAndre's voice whispered, "Protect what's yours." Marcus would, no matter the cost. The gavel's thunderous crack still echoed in Marcus Johnson's ears as he stepped out of the Atlanta courthouse, the marble hallway swallowing Lauren's desperate sob. "Tara said we'd win," like a fading ghost. The $15 million inheritance from DeAndre, secured by Judge Hamilton's ruling, was his alone, untarnished by Lauren's greed or Tara's scheming whispers. The restitution order of $30,000 and the criminal referral against Lauren were a victory, but Marcus's heart carried a heavier load. Grief for DeAndre, the sting of betrayal, and the lingering unease of cryptic texts and that strange car haunting his street. Isha's hand on his shoulder, warm with shared triumph, grounded him, but the weight of Lauren's final glare and Tara's silent exit stirred a quiet dread. This battle was won, but Marcus felt the shadow of another looming, its shape unclear but sharp. In his new apartment near downtown Atlanta, the air was lighter, free of the old house's ghosts, Lauren's laughter, her heels clicking out of his life. Marcus sat at a small desk, the brass lamp from DeAndre's old garage casting a warm glow across his face, etching lines of exhaustion and resolve. Trust statements lay spread before him, their numbers a testament to DeAndre's faith, a legacy Marcus was determined to honor. His hands, still rough with grease, traced the pages, each figure a brick in the life he was rebuilding. His heart ached, not for Lauren, but for the friend whose grin once lit up their late-night wrenching sessions. "We'll own this city, man," DeAndre had said, tossing him a wrench, his laughter filling the garage. That memory was a knife, cutting through the fog of betrayal, urging Marcus to keep going. He leaned back, the chair creaking, his eyes drifting to a framed photo on the desk. Him and DeAndre, grease-streaked, grinning beside a rebuilt Chevy. The ache in his chest deepened, a mix of grief and gratitude. Lauren had tried to steal this, fueled by Tara's tales of yachts and penthouses, but Marcus had held firm. Aisha's fire and DeAndre's trust were his anchors. His phone buzzed, a text from Aisha. "You're free now. Make it count." A smile tugged at his lips, small but real. He was free of Lauren, of her lies, but the cryptic text, "You're not safe," still gnawed at him, a splinter in his peace. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the trust statements, his pen scratching plans. Expand the shop, start a training program for local teens, a dream he and DeAndre had shared. The apartment's silence was broken by a faint rustle at the door. Marcus's heart jolted, his eyes darting to the shadows. He stood, his boots soft on the hardwood, and found an envelope slipped under the door. His name scrawled in Lauren's jagged handwriting. His pulse roared, a mix of dread and defiance, as he tore it open. The words inside were a gut punch. "It's not over, Marcus. I know about your shady deal with DeAndre." His breath caught, his mind flashing to a long-buried memory, a questionable contract from DeAndre's startup days, a favor Marcus had done without asking questions. His hands trembled, not from fear but from the weight of this new threat. Lauren, or perhaps Tara, was digging, and this was their final play. Marcus's heart pounded, a storm of anger and unease. He saw Lauren's desperate eyes in the courthouse, Tara's bracelets glinting as she slipped away, and felt a surge of resolve. He wouldn't let them unravel him. He dialed Aisha, his voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. "She left a letter," he said, reading the words aloud. Aisha's tone was sharp, her own scars fueling her fire. "It's a bluff, Marcus, but we'll check it. Send it over and beef up your security." He nodded, the lamp's glow steadying him, DeAndre's voice whispering, "Protect what's yours." Marcus slipped the letter into a drawer, his hands firm, his heart vowing to guard this legacy. Days later, Marcus stood in his shop, the neon sign buzzing outside, the air thick with oil and possibility. He'd hired 2 new mechanics, their laughter echoing as they worked, a faint echo of DeAndre's. The $15 million funded new equipment and the training program for teens was taking shape, a tribute to the dreams he and DeAndre had spun in their garage. His heart swelled, a mix of pride and grief, the weight of loss balanced by purpose. But the letter lingered, a shadow at the edge of his joy. Its words, "Your shady deal," a needle in his resolve. He pushed it down, focusing on the clank of tools, the rhythm of a shop reborn. In a downtown coffee shop, Marcus saw Lauren, her blonde hair limp, her eyes sunken, no longer glinting with Tara's promises. The clink of cups and murmur of voices filled the air as she approached, her uniform wrinkled, her hands empty of the designer bags she once flaunted. "I'll pay the restitution on time," she said, her voice low, cracked with exhaustion. Marcus's heart stirred, a fleeting pang of pity for the woman he'd once loved, now diminished by her choices. "Good," he said, his nod curt, his eyes steady. She hesitated, her lips parting as if to speak, then turned away, her shoulders slumped under the weight of her defeat. Marcus watched her go, the coffee shop's hum fading, his heart a complex weave of relief and caution. Lauren was broken, Tara's influence shattered, but that letter, its hint of a shady deal, kept his nerves taut. He saw DeAndre's grin, heard his laugh, and felt a fire ignite. This was his life now, built on sweat and trust, and he'd protect it. The neon sign outside his shop glowed, a beacon in the Atlanta night, and Marcus stood taller, his heart resolute. Lauren could threaten, Tara could scheme, but he was ready, his soul anchored by DeAndre's legacy and his own unyielding will. Marcus's fight for justice, fueled by DeAndre's legacy, leaves us breathless. His triumph over Lauren's betrayal, a testament to resilience. Yet that cryptic letter lingers, hinting at shadows to come. What do you think of Marcus's stand? Did Lauren's desperation surprise you, or is Tara's influence the real twist? Share your thoughts in the comments. Where are you watching from? Your reactions keep the story alive. Thank you for joining Marcus's journey, for feeling his pain and fire. Stay tuned for more tales that grip your heart and won't let go. Hit subscribe, and we'll meet again soon with another story that'll keep you hooked.